affected by voter suppression. And so that's why it's so important that we are convening not only these students, but experts to talk about what are the organizing strategies that we can employ on our campuses to break down voter suppression and to make this election as powerful and impactful as possible. So super excited to be moderating this panel. If everybody could please introduce themselves. Oh, and we have another person. Hi, hello, Dominique.
Hi.
If everybody could just please introduce themselves, what their position is, what they do, and their pronouns as well. My pronouns are she, hers. Monica, if you want to start.
Okay. My name is Monica Clark, and I am the service coordinator for Alabama A&M University, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Thanks. And Stephanie?
Thanks for having me today. My name is Stephanie King. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge.
Chadwick.
Yes, thanks for having me today. My name is Chadwick Leonard. I am the Florida State Coordinator for Campus Vote Project, as well as doing the work with HBCUs through Campus Vote Project's Legacy Initiative.
Great. And Dominique.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Dominique McMillan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a program coordinator with the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge.
Excellent. So I would like to kind of start off broadly before we get into the nitty-gritty in this conversation. But I would like to know kind of what is the All-In Campus Challenge? What does that include? Why is it important that, campuses buy into the challenge? And what have the outcomes been of the challenge in the past? And what are you looking for this year?
Such a great question, as I know there's lots of initiatives that all of your campuses are considering being a part of, or you're already a part of, and it's hard to figure out what's the right foothold to really support HBCUs. And frankly, we're excited to be on this conversation with Campus Vote Project, as they've been doing a lot of great work with their Legacy Initiative. Not to steal Chad's thunder, he'll talk more about that in a minute. But for All-In, we are a 501(c) program that looks at institutionalizing democratic engagement, lowercase d there, and we categorize democratic engagement as civic learning, political engagement, and student voter participation in a nonpartisan capacity. We're never looking at who students are voting for or what issues they're in favor of, but more so, are they educated about the process and outcomes of exercising their right to vote? It varies by state, and that makes it incredibly complicated. So if we can help administrators, faculty, and students understand rights and responsibilities of elections, that's what we're aiming for. You'll hear our executive director often say, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. So as soon as colleges and universities are like, I get it, we're talking about elections all the time, we're preparing our students to give informed ballots and not just voting naively based on political affiliation or hey, I like this person's name, so I went in that direction, but really knowing who they are and what they stand for, that's what we're after. We work with a network of 730 plus campuses across the nation. They're 2-year and 4-year public and private spaces. And we have engagement footholds with presidents, administrators, students, and so forth. And I know my colleague Dominique is going to talk a little bit more about the HBCU engagement, but that gives you a broad overview of All-In, but I'll turn it over to Dominique now.
Yes, so with HBCUs, we're deploying a community of practice with the 25 plus HBCUs that are already all in. So we're going to help campuses create action plans, which is their plan of action on how they're going to engage their students in the voter registration process, voter education, and ultimately turning out students to vote. And harnessing the energy of HBCU engagement, we're going to do this with our monthly newsletter. We have bi-monthly webinars on best practices for campuses participating in All-In. We present at conferences and workshops, including many virtual convenings like this one today. We have an action plan template and other toolkits so that campuses aren't feeling alone when it comes to participating in this process. And once COVID hit, we have a lot of COVID-19 related resources that we recently added on our resource hub. And I think the exciting part is that we get to offer campuses awards for the work that they're doing. So when campuses reach certain voting rate thresholds, and they're given awards after each election. So we have them on off years. We held one in 2019 in Washington, D.C. And hopefully, if all things go well, we'll have one in 2021 in Washington, D.C. But fingers are crossed. And we're going to do that by supporting and recognizing HBCUs. So we've been working to promote equity and inclusion within our institutions by intentionally engaging with community colleges, HBCUs, and other minority-serving institutions like predominantly Black and Hispanic-serving institutions. We have over 150 community colleges, 25 HBCUs, and over 150 minority-serving institutions participating in the challenge. And with your help, we can grow these numbers to ensure that higher education is a place to create informed and active citizens. And again, this brings me back to the awards. All-In has an HBCU award category with the potential for more, and that includes the highest voter registration award and the highest voter turnout rate. And then we've also got our President's Commitment, which is supporting presidents, provosts, and chancellors with institutionalizing these efforts.
Wow, that's so incredible. And I love how holistic the All-In Campus Challenge is. Chadwick and Monica, you both work specifically with HBCUs on engaging students to vote. Monica, I know that you are one of the incredible AGF campus champions. You work to institutionalize voting on campus. So what have you done as a administrator on your campus, as a faculty member, to kind of like bridge the gap between students wanting to register to vote and making it as easy as possible and making it a part of the culture as easy as possible, right? Like,
Yeah.
in quotes, making voting a part of the culture on your campus. What are the things that you've done? And then Chadwick, I'll kick it over to you as well after.
Thank you so much. At Alabama A&M, the first thing we had to do was make it part of our culture, make it more of an expectation, not necessarily asking, but this is just a part of being on an HBCU campus. We started to institutionalize voter registration at Alabama A&M, and we did that by writing a curriculum that is geared towards in our orientation course, that first seminar class. We wrote a curriculum that was geared toward being civically engaged, helping students to understand the importance of voting, a little bit of the past, but more looking into the future and giving them a voice so that they'll want to participate, and not just talking about how they can impact voting, but we want to educate our students so they'll go back home and they'll get mama and daddy and change a culture of not voting. So that is probably one of the largest things that we've done. The other thing this year, due to COVID, we had to change some things just a tad bit because we do have to think about a pandemic that is literally over our heads. So we've institutionalized our RAs in getting students registered inside the residence halls. So the RAs in the residence halls are registering their students. They're registering the ones that are on their floors. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that they are conversating with the students. They're asking the questions. We train our RAs to be able to answer the questions the students need. And for those students who still need clarification, they can reach out to our team so that we can be there to make sure our students understand what's happening, understand what it's going to look like on election day. And of course, make sure that they are comfortable with the process, because this whole absentee, all of this is just confusing for everyone. So making sure students are comfortable and understand is our primary goal right now.
I love that. Chadwick, I know that you are someone that doesn't work, within one institution itself. So being someone that has, seen what HBCUs are doing and what they struggle with when it comes to voting, what are some of the tactics that you could tell the students that are listening right now that you have found have been successful in, getting the vote out for Black students?
Yeah. So thank you again. I think what we kind of like to impress upon when it comes to getting the vote out, especially during this time of COVID, when it comes to digital organizing, it's all about deciding on what your intent is from the beginning, because your intent is going to lead you to everything else that you do. One of the examples that we use is like, what is your intent for doing tabling at your school? Like, what are you trying to get across? What message are you trying to get across? And then, leading that thought process all the way through. Now, what does that look like from a digital standpoint? It doesn't always look like Zoom, right? It doesn't always look like Hop-In. It may look like DMs. It may look like getting involved with Throwback Thursdays and things of that nature in order to get involved in that same type of traffic. as well as allowing students and helping students to not just register, but confirm at the same time, and reminding about that message. Like Monica said, with so many things going on, it's not enough to just do registration. We have to ask questions that may not be asked, that may have not needed to be asked in the previous years. So are you sure that you're registered? Have you been purged from the roll? When was the last time you voted? All of those things to talk about from a digital standpoint. And I think, especially when it comes to HBCUs, when there is a plethora of barriers that happen to HBCUs, most notably gerrymandering, like we saw in North Carolina. I know at my alma mater, Bethune-Cookman, we've experienced it. Actually, they're experiencing it now. Even in Texas with the HBCUs there that are going through that. I think that it's an extra amount of vigilance and due process that has to go on our end in order to make sure that not only we have registered, but we have access to the ballot and access to the polls as well. So just thinking through that, we always ask students to do that, and as administrators ask themselves, what does that look like with their resources and with their capacity? Because some schools have a whole department for civic engagement. Some schools have literally one person doing everything with a few dedicated students. So it's about capacity, it's about intent, and it's about confirmation of what you want people to do, not just getting them to register, but also getting them confirmed every status that relates to that as well.
Yeah, I really love what you said about doing all of this work even without the capacity. Maybe you don't always have the capacity to do so, and lots of different schools, especially HBCUs, they may not have the funding that other PWIs have for this kind of work. So I'm wondering, what are some ideas regarding like funding opportunities that can help fuel this work that you all know of, that maybe your organizations provide, that these students could potentially look into? I know here at AGF, we have our ambassadorship program. Although we do, provide activity stipends and stipends for our participants, like our ambassadors who are students, it doesn't really mean that, that gives you full institution buy-in, that, a nice big budget could really help supplement. So Stephanie and Dominique, I'm wondering if there are any opportunities there that you could share with the students, and then Chadwick and Monica as well. We could go back and forth.
Yeah, great questions. And I think,
oh, your audio just...
I've remuted myself. I'm the first technological taboo for the day. Sorry, friends. So yeah, funding is a hard question. And as Chadwick mentioned, a lot of folks are at capacity, and with institutions navigating the impacts of COVID, there has been resource cuts because a lot of students aren't re-enrolling in the institutions. They're taking hiatus. Economies are needing to make tough decisions, and that's a hard place to be in. And I think as nonprofits, as AGF is able to offer fellowships to students, that's amazing. Campus Vote Project is the same thing, which is amazing. From All In's perspective, we recently gave out what we called Kohlberg mini grants. So we gave out 15 stipends to different campuses that are at HBCUs or minority serving institutions in the South. So those went out the door recently. We're also a part of the Ask Every Student program, which all these organizations are also a part of, where we've been able to give out grants, or we call them commitment or co-designer awards. They range in the value of $1,000 to $35,000. And really, as long as the efforts are geared towards voter registration, so it can't be the full bucket of like all of the things you might want to do. The proposal literally has to be like, here's how I'm going to register my students. This is it. Like, I need to hire students to help answer those questions, as Chadwick mentioned. I need to hire the RAs, as Monica mentioned, talking about Alabama A&M, to help register students. Like, as long as the funding's going towards that and not towards the like debate watches or turnout gaps, that's where the funding's going. There's still opportunities for folks to apply for the Ask Every Student program. So if you've never heard that language before, go to studentvoting.org and it'll pop up the Ask Every Student program, and you'll be able to see more about awards and programs. Or you can certainly send Christina and Nicole, who are helping to organize today's panel and conversation, a note, and we'll be sure to get you the right information so your campus can apply for funding if it's still an option that you're looking for.
Thank you so much. That is so helpful. And I hope everybody who is tuning in is taking notes, because we're talking about free money literally here geared towards registering students to vote. If you want to literally be the change on your campus, this is how you get it done. And I know that people that are there that are on this chat right now, y'all are leaders. So I'm expecting to see some good turnout from this conversation. Chadwick, I'm wondering if you can share any opportunities that you know of that would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think a great opportunity right now, along with everything that Stephanie just mentioned, because definitely wanted to mention that stuff as well. So the election protection, and I don't know if you don't know what election protection is, it's by the Lawyers Committee, and the Lawyers Committee and the election protection has started the John R. Lewis HBCU Fund. And actually, I'll put the link in the chat. It's a fund they have for HBCUs to talk about what they plan on doing, and to send. It's a quick application to get some funding on voter registration, voter turnout, and voter education that they're doing. So I'll put that in right now, as well as opportunities for not necessarily funding, but I think what's important too is resources. Because they may not be able to give, you may not be able to receive money from some places, but you can definitely get flyers, you can definitely get stickers, you can definitely get shirts and all of those things that you may need. So I would encourage everyone to look into National Voter Registration Day, look into signing up for Constitution Day, look into early voting week, and those things to access that, those resources and to get you those things. I think sometimes we want to give money, which is always helpful, which is the most helpful. But I think what also helps when we're not able to receive that money is to receive direction and to receive resources that can be used towards the work as well.
Right. Wonderful. Dominique or Monica, do you have anything else to add?
I would just add that with all the resources, you also need to rally your volunteers. A big part of what we do is getting people to help us. Alabama A&M, we do not have a large staff that's out there working, but what we do have is loyal volunteers. So whether it's faculty, staff, community members, collaborate with other organizations in your neighborhoods, to try to build a team. And with that team, you're able to get a lot more done. And you're able to utilize the resource. A lot of these resources are shared resources, but Alabama A&M utilizes some of the same resources that Stephanie and Chadwick mentioned for financial. But when it comes to actually on the ground, boots on the ground, running, we utilize our resources in our neighborhoods and our communities, and also faculty and staff on our campus.
Yes, love that. I feel like once you have a good team and a coalition of people that are bought into the idea, it's all about rallying them and organizing effectively. So I really love that. We're kind of, getting up to the end of our session here. So I'm wondering, and this is a big question. I personally have a pet peeve when people like to equate not students or young people not voting if you aren't, on the Instagram all the time, maybe you should go vote. I personally believe that students aren't able to vote as much as they can, as much as they should, because of systems of oppression outside of their own control. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on that? What can you tell our students here as kind of like your closing, elevator pitch regarding, systems of oppression when it comes to voting? What do you think about that? How can they combat that in your opinion? And what are your hopes for this election? We'll start with Stephanie.
That's a tough one, right? It's my pet peeve too when people say like my vote doesn't matter, and I want to be like, it absolutely does. And the hard part is that there are a lot of systems, as Chad mentioned, the gerrymandering happens in North Carolina and Texas, and unfortunately, it's like you have to exercise your right to vote to change the persons in power that in turn are enacting gerrymandering practices to recater the lines, which make it difficult. And so really just helping folks know that there's so much power in the individual vote and so much power in the individual rally. And so if you have a passion or a person or a thing that really excites you, shout it from the rooftops. Call your administrators like Monica. Sorry, Monica, I'm blowing up your inbox for a moment here, but call the Monicas on your campus and say like, hey, I need help figuring this out. Like, I want to vote. I want to get involved. how do I do it? How do I have conversations across issue lines? And how do I make sure that everyone hears me in a way that's effective and important and true to who I am, and that I don't have to change to fit into some particular mold, right? Then eventually, as you heard from previous speakers, like maybe you'll run for elected office, or you'll become a staffer, or you'll help write the campaign speeches that then inspire the next group of persons, right? There's so much momentum behind each person, and I know you've probably heard it before, but you matter. Like, your voice matters, your vote matters. Like, you as a human being have every right, responsibility, and expectation to get involved, and that matters. And I know I'm sitting on my pulpit right now, so thanks for the 5-second soapbox, but I just really want all the students to know you're so important. And anytime that someone tells you no, like, call election protection, call your Monicas, call your all-ins, call your AGS, and say, help me figure this out, because we're here to do that. It's complicated, it's silly, and it shouldn't be that way. And we need to find ways to make it better.
Oh,
so thank you.
I love that. I love that. Your voice, your vote, and your life matters. Absolutely. I love that. Dominique, what would you have to add to that amazing speech?
I know I have some big shoes to fill, but no, I absolutely agree with Stephanie. Voting is one of the tools for folks to be able to make change, but understanding, I think a lot of times there's that pressure for people to see the very big picture of federal government, state government, but really taking it down to the local side. If there's that stoplight that is taking too long, or that right turn signal or left turn signal that's only 30 seconds when it should be a minute and 15, that's very much your city council, your city planner. And those are people that you have access to very quickly. I've served in an internship with a senator's office, and people call regularly. So if you're a person that wants to vent it out, people are being paid to hear you complain about something. And it's likely that someone will fix it because you're being an active citizen. I think voting is the big one that everyone brings, but there are many tools that go into a toolbox. You got your hammer, your Allen wrench, your screwdriver, XYZ. So use all of them to the best of your ability. And if you care about something so deeply, shout it from the rooftops. Use your voice the best way that it can be heard, and call the Monicas, email the Monicas, the all-ins, the CVPs. Those folks are important, and just utilizing your network of people and not feeling like voting is the only thing. Voting is very important, but exercise all the aspects of being a citizen of the United States. You've got a lot of power and voice to be able to say what you don't like and what you do like, and ensuring that can change. And a lot of times it starts with your Board of Education, your city council, the commissioner. All of those folks make very intentional decisions on where businesses can be, where schools can be, what belongs in what neighborhood. Your Board of Elections, they determine what polling sites are going to be open, where they're going to be closed, if your campus can be a polling location. So looking within your community and then being able to build from without. So if you can take care of the people at home, you can then start moving out into the neighborhood, and then into your county, then into your city, so on and so forth. So that's my bit. Thank you.
No, I love that so much, especially, to be honest, there's a lot of disillusionment, especially young people around voting, and what that means and what power that holds. And I really love just thinking about it as locally as possible, because even regardless of what happens, federally with the presidential election, you still have the power to figure out, who's going to be your district attorney, and that determines so many things. Who's going to be on your local judges circuit?
Who's going to be the sheriff?
Exactly. Things that aren't the sexiest to think about, but that have implications that literally affect you. And something that I like to tell my students is that when you are on a campus, first of all, you are a part of a local city infrastructure, and you are a person that is taxed. So if you're taxed, you need to be represented. And in order to represent yourself, you've got to vote. And that is just democracy 101. So I really love what you said, Dominique. Chadwick, do you have anything to add to that question that I posed?
I would definitely echo everything that's already been said, especially that part about the student power, because I think sometimes we get caught up in the student part and not realize that you are also a constituent, right? And you have all the rights and privileges related to that. You live in that community. You have the power to change that community. I will also say that, look at voting as the bare minimum. I think voting is the start of civic engagement, not the end all to be all. I think, especially in times like these with so many issues affecting HBCUs just by their existence, dealing with Black students, dealing with education, dealing with all of those things. I think it's really important to, as the saying goes, keep that same energy. I think that the real work begins after the election. Use those tools. You can go on Senate.gov and look at who sponsors what bill and how that bill is going to affect you. You can go to your state pages and you can go to your local pages and you can look at recorded city council things. And so you can see who to talk to and all of those things. I say, a plan is always the best way to go. Like they always say, plan to vote, but plan to hold people accountable. I think that it's not a requirement to be in love with a candidate before you vote with them. But what is the requirement is that you understand how to hold them accountable, whether they're the person you voted for or not. It's still your privilege and your responsibility to hold them accountable. So just start talking about those plans as well. Because when we wake up on November 4th, we still have to work, and so, it may be time for a breather, but it's not time to quit, the good or the bad. Right. And that goes with local elections in your cities and your states as well. So just keep that same energy, keep that work up. Don't let anybody convince you that you don't have the power you actually have. The same ways they make the decisions, the same processes they use to make decisions about your life, you can make decisions about their position and their life. So just keep that in mind, and keep being creative is what I would say. Find new ways to do the work and just continue to work as much as you can.
I love that so much. The work never stops, even after November 4th, just when it's beginning. So I love that a lot. Monica, closing words, your thoughts, especially as somebody who works directly with students. I would love to hear what you tell them to motivate them, what your perspective is, and why you even do what you do. I would love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think it's important for us to understand, and I guess I'm talking more to the administrators, the staff, the faculty members. We need to have conversations with our students. We need to talk to them. I like to know what they're thinking, because you'd be surprised. A lot of our students don't know. They don't understand. They don't know why they should vote. They don't know who to vote for. And it's not that, they're being disconnected. A lot of them just don't know. It's just that simple. So we have to have these conversations. We have to sit down with our students and talk to them so that we can explain, so that we can help them to understand. And with that, we get them involved. You're sitting in your residence hall, I want you to come out here and I want you to help. I want you to participate in this process. I need you to see the change. And hopefully by them seeing the change and helping to participate, then they change their minds, they change their ideas, and then they go home and they change their cultures. Because I think that's where it has to start if we're going to look at this from a broader perspective. The other thing is making sure that our students, when they do have concerns and they do have issues or complaints, help them to open the door to where they can run for offices themselves. If you don't like the way your Congress is doing something, run for office. If you don't like your school system, run for office. If you don't like the way things are headed or the direction things are headed in your community, run for office. Do it yourself. You be the change. You do it. So trying to encourage them to get out of their comfort zones, to say something, to do something, I feel like that's our job. That's our responsibility. And that's, talking about how I got into this is pretty much that, being able to have a platform that sometimes we don't realize how powerful our platform is. Mm-hmm. But we have a platform, and being able to tell these students or ask the questions in the classroom. So why don't you vote? What would you like to see different? And how would you like for things to change? And now let me tell you what you can do to make that change happen. These conversations can lead to young folk, not only voting, but they can mobilize the vote as well as they can run for office and change what's happening in their own communities. I guess I'm going to end by quoting my president, Dr. Andrew Hugini from Alabama A&M University, when he said, "Vote like your life depends on it." Guys, we have to vote like our lives depends on it, because our lives depend on it.
Amen. I love that so much. And I really love your personal philosophy of like taking it upon yourself to, you know, ask the questions. So I really love that. Well, thank you all so much. We are about 2 minutes early, so y'all can go ahead and take a coffee break, take a bathroom break. We'll be right back at 1 p.m. to do a Facebook presentation on digital organizing there. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for the work that you do. I hope y'all take care of yourselves. It's important. We got a long way to November 3rd, but we got to be healthy to get there. So thank you all so much, and we will be talking soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.